Hey, it's Natasha.
And Khalil.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
Thank you for tuning in to our 89th episode of WokeNFree. If you've been tuning in every week for WokeNFree Wednesday, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything important to us, you, the world, and nothing is off the table. This week we're talking all about whether spirits exist. Not ghosts, but internal spirits. Before we dive deep into that subject, couple of questions to ask you. First, have you subscribed to WokeNFree on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, or even via email? If not, subscribe away at WokeNFree.com. Next, have you shared an episode with friends and family? If not, this is a spooky cool episode to share, and we would greatly appreciate your support. So please share away. Next, have you hollered at us on social media? If you want to find us for breaking news or episode ideas or collaborations, you can always contact us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or even YouTube at WokeNFree. And then lastly, have you reviewed the show? Again, we're on plenty of platforms that you can choose all of your liking at WokeNFree.com, so you can review us maybe on iTunes or on TuneIn or Stitcher or Google Play or any of the other platforms. So please go to WokeNFree.com and review away.
Each week we like to share a little bit about us before we dive into the topic for the episode. Last week we shared, would you rather be an exceptionally strong knight or a magical wizard? This week we're sharing, what is your favorite diamond color?
The deep stuff, I see. Nice.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
That's all we bring here.
Listen, that's how you got to be woken free. So you're not going to like my woken free answer to this, which is a black diamond, because thanks to Brandy's brother, I always forget what his name is.
Ray J.
There we go. Shout out to Ray J. He had this really beautiful black diamond necklace. I think it was probably like $200,000 or something crazy and opulent. But I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And since then, I've actually been quite obsessed with black diamonds, whether they're earrings or necklaces. So black diamond it is for me. How about you?
Mine's definitely canary diamonds, because it reminds me of the sun that I receive in Arizona.
That you will receive in Arizona. Yes.
I receive it from here too.
Yes, manifesting. Yes, absolutely. Can't wait. AZ, what's good?
Yep.
All right, so we're quite contrasted in our colors.
Definitely. I'm on the bright side. You're on the
dark side. Yeah. But actually, what does that make us? Black and yellow.
Oh no, I can't believe you filled that in there. You know how many years it's been since that? That's crazy. Come on.
Hey, yes. That is amazing.
Well, might as well jump into it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to ask the question, what is a spirit?
Ooh la la. So that's a really interesting question. So I was trying to find like scientific or hard data on this, and to my surprise, there's a lot of spiritually induced information, which I guess I'll share some of that and we'll see what you think of that. So from lifehopeandtruth.com, they describe, what a spirit is, as the best we can do is describe what a spirit isn't. So goes on to say, we live in the realm of matter. We are physical beings dwelling on a physical earth in a physical universe. All that is in the realm of matter is composed of the basic building blocks of all matter, atoms. We also know that atoms are not the smallest particles of matter. Atoms are themselves composed of protons, neutrons, and electrons. And from the field of particular physics, we know that protons and neutrons are also composed of numerous smaller particles that have names like quarks, leptons, bosons, etc. All of these particles that make up all matter in the material universe are physical and can be detected by physical means. They are not spirit. We can safely conclude that spirit is not a part of this realm of matter, since it cannot be detected by any physical means. And then it goes on to refer to the Bible by saying the Bible tells us that God is spirit, John 4:24, and angels are spirits, Hebrews 1:13-14. By analogy, we can assume that everything in the spirit realm is composed of spirit, just as all things in the material realm are composed of matter. Therefore, God's throne, Ezekiel 10:1, and the furnishings at God's thrones would be composed of spirit. The mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant was a representation of the throne of God in heavens. Exodus 25:17 and 22. From Hebrews 9:23 to 24, we see that the physical temple was patterned after the design of the heavenly sanctuary where God dwells. So they conclude that all that exists where God dwells is composed of spirit. So to answer that question,
Wow. Okay.
this website seems to be saying, yes, that from a like a physics perspective, you cannot define spirit as a physical existence, as there are no physical detectors of it. But if you go like Christian and religious, that, you know, if you believe and adhere to that, that anything related to God and a spiritual being would be a spirit. It doesn't really answer the question.
Nice and confusing.
Yes, yeah. That's how I would
like
based on that information.
Because first you were saying that
it was going
spirits can't be detected in the physical realm. Then you were like, God is spirit, spirit is God.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay,
it went a different way, but I appreciated the information. I thought it was interesting.
Long-winded type of explanation, but it doesn't lead us anywhere. But that's good to know.
Ouch.
No, I mean, it doesn't give us the answers. It's not.
Okay, so you take a crack at it. What is spirit?
My crack involves Merriam-Webster, and not the crack that you smoke. The crack that I'm taking at this question that we asked.
Phenomenal.
Because I know you tried to like slip me up there, put me in a corner.
Don't worry.
Corner, baby. Don't sit in a corner, right?
Or you can't put baby. In a corner. You can't even get the phrase right. Watch Dirty Dancing. Why don't you? Yes, you have.
I haven't seen it, but
I have watched Dirty Dancing.
Yeah, I've seen parts of it, but I haven't seen it all the way through.
I've heard that line. Puts baby in the corner.
I know. Yes. That's what I'm saying. He can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I found on Merriam-Webster was that they explained, well, there's also another name for spirit. I just have to mention just so people know. And spirit, it could be another term for alcohol.
Okay, come on.
I just want to say that first.
Come on.
But the one that we're talking about here is, according to Merriam-Webster, an animating or vital principle held to give life to physical organisms. That's the one. And then the second thing they said is a supernatural being or essence, such as Holy Spirit, soul, or a malevolent being. Which kind of like goes back with your religious things that you were saying from that website. That second one ties in. And I guess this first one is similar to... Oh no, actually you didn't go into that. You were talking about the physical realm. But see, what this says the spirit is tied to a physical organism. And it's saying that's what animates it. That's according to Merriam-Webster. It's saying the spirit is whatever sort of energy that gives life to physical organisms. Isn't that interesting? That's right from them.
So kind of like a battery to operate the vehicle
sort
of being.
They don't go into if it could be detected, none of that. They're just saying what it is.
That's a different approach to it. So to then
that's what
in
gives
that realm of theory,
life.
Then if you took the soul out, then the body
then
would
there's
die.
No life. According to that definition that they're using, that's what they're saying. Very interesting. Some people believe that. Some people definitely believe that. They say without a spirit, you can't move on. There's no zombies. There's just nothing. There's nothing there. There's just a physical cells that can't operate, I guess. I don't know.
I guess they didn't see Us by Jordan Peele. Because you could clone the bodies, but you couldn't clone the spirit.
They're tethered.
Remember, yeah. But you couldn't clone the spirit. They said that. But but the tethered were still existing.
Yeah.
But they were, in theory, soulless beings. Because you couldn't clone
but they were connected. They were connected to them somehow. But they were. They're basically just hollow shell things that moved.
Interesting. All right. Well, then that begs the question: do you believe in spirits?
At this point, I'd have to say no. It just seems like an idealistic way for humans to deal with the concept of death by saying that your real self survives death. People think that they actually don't die. They say you go and live on forever. It's a way of kind of just being like, death isn't really happening because my spirit always lives on. And in essence, that spirit is what, in people's minds, it prevents death for humans. And I think also death is feared by lots of people. I'm still open to the idea, though, because it still remains a possibility, and I don't want to, shut that down. But I just don't think our current science proves or disproves the existence of spirits. So for now, I'm just going with the disbelief in it, since it seems like a happy ending kind of thing. And not something that's based in this, we need this to live.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's where I am at this point.
I appreciate your candor.
Yeah, I'm not. I can't knock people that do believe in it, but I just can't believe in it at this point.
Okay, so all my life.
Oh, nope, you can't. Nope, because you've tried that one already. You can't bring it up now.
I have believed in God and the spiritual realm. How I view God and how I've viewed spirituality has definitely changed over the years. However, I would be remiss to say that if at this current stage in my life and my theology, do I absolutely discredit the idea of spirits? No, because there hasn't been proof to discredit the notion of spirits. So I definitely am for it. Do I see your argument about it really being kind of a convenient theology or idea or concept because human beings want to feel more significant. Human beings want to be more than flesh and bones. Absolutely. Yeah. For sure, there's an argument for that. But there's also an argument to say that, like, if you're looking for a deeper purpose in life, it should be tied to something a little bit more significant than just flesh and bone. It would be, if our lives were supposed to be meaningful in some way or form, which we will be talking about on the show in an upcoming episode, ultimately, if you had a soul, then I think there could be consequence for the way that you live and the way that you treat others and the decisions you make. And
that already happens, though.
And yeah.
Consequences exist in life. It's not like you live life and do what you want.
A deeper consequence. More than just like, I can go to prison if I murder someone, but more like, what is the
you can be
spiritual
scarred, though,
consequences
too. You can get a cut across your eye and have a scar.
But that's
for
flesh
life.
And bone. Is there a deeper consequence that's possible?
There could be, or there could not be.
So it could go either way. I want to stand on the side of there is, and I pose to everyone to think about this. I think this is, who said this? Energy is neither created or destroyed. What is that? Is that? It's part of the same thing as.
I think it's attributed to Einstein.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in those exact words,
but yeah.
It's the conservation of energy. That's what that's about.
Exactly. So
it's thermodynamics. I'm not sure.
But it begs the question to think about when we are born and when we die. If energy is neither created nor destroyed, then what happens, right? Like, what happens to the energy within us if there is spiritual energy?
It goes into trees. Or
that's
it goes
one
into
theory,
the sand.
But there could be a
the
theory
heat is released
that
into
we
the
are
atmosphere.
Assembled and put
there's
into another
if you looked at
form of existence.
If you look at it on the physical level, all the energy is accounted for when we die.
Of course, it
but
has to be.
The problem is once I'll go into it later, but once you add a spirit, there's no accounting for how the spirit affects
like what
anything.
The website said, there's no measurable detector.
Yeah, they're trying to say that it's not physically
how
measured,
could you?
Everything in our existence is we at least have the ability to measure it, even if we haven't discovered how to accurately measure it. We see that there's an effect from an outside source or something. But this spirit would be weird because it would exist in its own realm of physics where it doesn't have any effect on the physical self, but somehow it affects us when we die. I mean, it goes on and does its
thing. But just because we don't have a way to measure something doesn't mean that it's not measurable, right? Because we mentioned this in another episode before.
No, of course not.
It just means we don't currently have a way to measure. Doesn't mean it's not measurable. I would like to point that distinction out too, because I think human beings can be very conclusionary in nature, and it's just like, well, if I can't measure it, it doesn't exist. No, it means you can't measure it now. You need a new type of tool. and maybe we're not supposed to know the logistics of a spiritual realm. I mean, that's crazy. Out of the realm of human possibility.
The reason I say that is because when humans first came around, that was the whole thing. We thought everything was magic. And then as we evolved,
so I don't put it in the frame of that. But I mean, like, so do you remember in The Secret, Law of Attraction, guys? So, a part of The Secret and the Law of Attraction is that you're not supposed to ask the universe, like, how is this going to happen, right? If you want to win $1 million, if you want to buy your dream home, you don't have to worry about the how. You just need to worry about your part, right? What are you doing to make it happen? Because the universe will deliver the how for you. So that's what I'm suggesting on the spiritual realm. Not to say that we're not entitled to that information, but like, do we need to understand the logistics? Maybe if it exists, is that changing our point of view?
You could argue that with even lightning, when we saw lightning, maybe we should have just left it alone and not figure out
not
how
that we
it worked.
left it alone, but like, do
Maybe
we
we didn't-
need to know?
Yeah, we
Like,
do, because that helped us with now
I think
harnessing
we want
electricity.
to know it, but I don't know if we need to know it.
But I mean, well, it's given us a comfortability that we haven't had before. We've learned about electricity and the laws governing that.
But in theory, if
So
spirits
kinda like-
have been existing, and our
but-
life has been
Oh,
fine.
here's, you know, no, it hasn't. That's the thing. There you go. Finally, that's the key. What did you say? Our lives have been fine?
Well, not across the board
Yep.
for all.
And
but
that's what I'm saying. Maybe if we unlock the key of spirituality,
we would be able to
and
fix
spirits,
more lives.
it'd be easier to
gotcha.
fix some of the world problems. Maybe that's why we can't solve them, is because we haven't found out enough yet. Because we've
that's a
solved
possibility.
technology has been used to solve certain things and make
Of
some
course,
equalizers
of course.
that haven't existed before. So I think that would help if there was.
Well, hey, WokeNFree
it's
Nation.
possible.
Maybe somebody with a time machine needs to go in the future and figure it out. Because I just don't think our current day society and people in charge, like Mr. Cheeto, is interested in discovering this, right? Like, I think that this is something probably like 2025 or something like that, you know, like people who can get past racism and classism and sexism and gender gap issues can focus on like real shit. And maybe, but I just don't see in the next 100 years people being like, let's discover the spiritual realm. Like, I just don't see that happening. But maybe
we might, as we get more comfortable and feeling that technology has kind of gotten near like a peak. We might say, hey, what else is there besides like tech
I don't know.
that gets
Do you
here?
really see? I feel like
Yeah, I
people
think so.
don't-
I think we're gonna have but I think what's gonna happen is like spirituality, not religion, but spirituality in itself, and asking questions about why are we
Okay.
here, that kind of stuff. I think that will actually.
I mean,
come
I
to
think
our
that would be
minds.
really cool if we as a society could get
Yeah.
past like stupid stuff like that and
We have more forums to
and
talk
we could
about
like
it.
talk about like things
That
like
helps.
this, because that would be, I mean, imagine guys if we were like, yeah, spirits do exist, and like if we actually had some type of information on this, I think that'd be fascinating. Based on spirits and history and religion, how do they all like work together? Do they work together or not?
There's actually one ideology that I thought of that really embodies the idea of spirits, and it's been called animism. And according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, animism is the belief in innumerable spiritual beings concerned with human affairs and capable of helping or harming human interests. Animistic beliefs were first competently surveyed by Sir Edward Bernard Tyler in his work Primitive Culture in 1871. To which is owed the continued currency of this term. So this guy came up with the animism term to describe people who had this sort of belief. And the term animism, it denotes not a single creed or doctrine, but it's a view of the world consistent with a certain range of religious beliefs and practices, many of which may survive in more complex or hierarchical religions. So religions itself has picked up the animism belief that like things have spirits. That's really what it comes down to.
Okay.
Like everything has a spirit, like maybe even a rock, you know, something like that.
Gotcha.
The wood that fell off the tree, that has a spirit. Plants have spirits, cells. That's like an animistic belief.
Fascinating. Okay.
And then this is ancient. It's really old. It's older than 1871. It was only documented then, but
Okay.
it precedes major or modern religions.
Okay, so if we're going to talk about like how spirits have been interpreted and or recognized historically and religiously, Britannica.com also has a plethora of information which we will go through point by point, and you can laugh and gasp and do everything in between.
And shout.
Yes, indeed. So they say many cultures have recognized some incorporeal principle of human life or existence corresponding to the soul, and many have attributed souls to all living things, like you were saying.
Yeah.
There is evidence, even among prehistoric peoples, of a belief in an aspect distinct from the body and residing in it. Despite widespread and long-standing belief in the existence of a soul, however, different religions and philosophers have developed a variety of theories as to its nature, relationship to the body, origin, and mortality. So, among ancient people, both the Egyptians and the Chinese conceived of a dual soul. The Egyptian
What?
Ka, which means breath, survived death but remained near the body, while the spiritual Ba proceeded to the region of the dead. The Chinese distinguished between a lower sensitive soul which disappears with death and a rational principle, the Hun, which survives the grave and is the object of ancestor worship.
Okay.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So then the early Hebrews apparently had a concept of the soul but did not separate it from the body, although later Jewish writers developed the idea of the soul further. Biblical references to the soul are related.
The further. That's in the Insidious. That's
Indeed.
where people go.
Indeed. Biblical references to the soul are related to the concept of breath and establish no distinction between the ethereal soul and the corporeal body. Christian concepts of a body-soul dichotomy originated with the ancient Greeks and were introduced into Christian theology at an early date by Saint Gregory of Nyssa and by Saint Augustine. The ancient Greek concept of soul varied considerably according to the particular era and philosophical school. The Epicureans considered the soul to be made up of atoms, like the rest of the body. For the Platonists, the soul was immaterial and incorporeal substance, akin to the gods, yet part of the world of change and becoming. So Aristotle's conception of the soul was obscure, though he did state that it was a form inseparable from the body. We talked about that. Let's go on. From the Middle Ages onward, the existence and nature of the soul and its relationship to the body continued to be disputed in Western philosophy. To René Descartes, a man was a union of the body and the soul, each a distinct substance acting on the other. The soul was equivalent to the mind. To Benedict de Spinoza, thank you, body and soul form two aspects of a single reality. Immanuel Kant concluded that the soul was not demonstrable through reason, although the mind inevitably must reach the conclusion that the soul exists because such a conclusion was necessary for the development of ethics and religion. Interesting. To William James at the beginning of the 20th century, the soul as such did not exist at all, but was merely a collection of psychic phenomena. Okay, so kind of a human, dream. And then, in Hinduism, the Atman, breath or soul, is the universal eternal self of which each individual soul, Jiva or Java-atom, partakes. The Jiva atom is also eternal, but is imprisoned in an earthly body at birth. At death, the Jiva atom passes into a new existence determined by karma, or the cumulative consequences of actions. And then the cycle of death and rebirth, samsara, is eternal according to some Hindus, but others say it persists only until the soul has attained karmic perfection, thus emerging the absolute. Brahmin Buddhism negates the concept not only of the individual self, but of the Atman as well, asserting that any sense of having an individual eternal soul or of partaking in a persistent universal self is illusory. And then the Muslim concept is like the Christian, which holds that the soul comes into existence at the same time as the body. Thereafter, it has a life on its own, its union with the body being a temporary condition. So that's a lot, guys. You can go through all of this through the links that you'll find in the episode at WokeNFree.com. But what's interesting is as we kind of go through it, the soul is definitely something that people are trying to wrap their minds around and have been trying to do this for quite a long time in many different cultures and many different places in the world, which is interesting that the human brain, like, we just can't seem to have a consensus on it, right? Depending upon whatever you were alive and what culture you're in. You can't have a consensus
until there's something to show concrete evidence
this
of its
existence. This is another kind of question mark
works.
Episode where it's like, is there a spirit?
We can concretely say that there's water in the oceans because we can all go to the ocean, we can drink it, we can pick it up and feel it. Everybody has a consensus about it. But when you have something there's no real proof and people are just saying it's there, that's the problem.
It's interesting, though. It's interesting how some people see the distinction
but they feel
between
that it
the
needs
entities,
to be there.
And then some see it as one reality. That's interesting, too, how you can interpret it differently. Like the soul is a being and the human body is a being, and they're tethered together. Sometimes they're not. It just depends on the different
That whole
cultures.
dual soul thing. I think I've heard about it, but I forgot about that they had that. Because that just seems crazy to have. I mean, I don't know. That just seems. Why do you have two souls? Why do you need the one on the dead body?
Have two memories.
Because it's kind of like that. The one that's trapped to the dead body seems like he gets the worst luck.
That would suck.
And the one that gets to go in the
Live
other
in
realm
the
is
other
a lot
realm,
better.
yeah, is
Somebody
living
gets
life.
tied to this dead body that's stinking it up, and you're going and partying with your friends. Like, that's crazy to me.
I think when I think
That
of
dual
the
soul
human soul,
thing.
I just think of I just think of Insidious, and I just think it's I think it's tied to your body, and sometimes you can get lost in another dream state. I
Wow.
just think
All right.
it's crazy.
You are listening to Woke and Free,
WokeNFree.
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 a podcast that keeps it real and honest.
Now, how does the scientific community reconcile spirits?
So, shout out to Psychology Today. We love you. There's a couple things that I saw in this article. And again, all links you can find at WokeNFree.com. The current scientific paradigm doesn't recognize this spiritual dimension of life. We're told we're just the activity of carbon and some proteins. We live a while and die. And the universe, it has no meaning. It has all been worked out in the equations, no need for a soul. But biocentrism, a new theory of everything, challenges this traditional materialistic model of reality. In all directions, this outdated paradigm leads to insoluble enigmas, to ideas that are ultimately irrational. But knowledge is the prelude
Nice.
to wisdom, and soon our worldview will catch up with the facts. Of course, most spiritual people view the soul as living, definitely more definitive than it is to be like a scientific concept, because, you know, people have certain beliefs that just attached to the idea of they want it to exist. However, it's considered the incorporeal essence of a person and is said to be immortal and transcendent of material existence. But when scientists speak of the soul, if at all, it's usually in a materialistic context or treated as a poetic synonym for the mind. Everything knowable about the soul can be learned by studying the functioning of the brain. In their view, neuroscience is the only branch of scientific study relevant to understanding the soul. And then traditional science has dismissed the soul as an object of human belief, right? Just human dreams, or reduced to a psychological concept that shapes our cognition of the observable natural world. The terms life and death are thus nothing more than the common concepts of biological life and biological death. The animating principle is simply the laws of chemistry and physics. You and all the poets and philosophers that ever lived are just dust orbiting the core of the Milky Way galaxy.
Nice.
That's not jaded at all.
That seems fun, though. I mean, you get to orbit forever then. Like, according to that.
Oh, man. Yes, it goes on. It's very, very thorough article.
That doesn't get a lot of people stoked, does it? Roaming
yeah.
the galaxy. That at least you're traveling in space.
Let's see. Yeah, it's like, so it's essentially, the article is essentially saying that, like, scientifically there is, you know, there's no, like you said earlier, there's no distinctive information or facts or experiments that have said, haha, the soul exists. So I think the scientific community essentially poo-poos on the idea. But what have you found?
Yeah, I found this article by a physicist on Scientific American, and he posed some ideas. It actually asked some questions. What form does the spirit energy take, and how does it interact with our ordinary atoms, like I was saying before? What is this energy? What is the spirit thing? And then within the quantum field theory, there can't be a new collection of spirit particles and spirit forces that interact with our regular atoms because we would have detected them in existing experiments. Of course, everything we know about quantum field theory could be wrong, but then you would have to posit a completely new realm of reality obeying very different rules than the ones that we know and see affecting our lives today. He also asked, how is the spirit energy supposed to interact with us on a personal level? There's an equation that predicts how everyday electrons react with the world, which is very accurate. It doesn't account for a spirit variable. So if spirits did exist, how do they interact with the electron? Is it in space-time? Does the soul respect gauge invariance and Lorentz invariance? Do the interactions preserve unitarity and conservation of information? Nobody ever asks these questions out loud, possibly because of how silly they sound. Once you start asking them, the choice you are faced with becomes clear. Either overthrow everything we think we have learned about modern physics, or distrust the stew of religious accounts, unreliable testimony, wishful thinking that makes people believe in the possibility of life after death.
That is, see, what's the problem with that though? I love the candor and I love the sarcasm.
Yeah.
However, it becomes this dichotomy of like, are you a scientist or are you religious? Like
I know it tries to,
and I don't necessarily like that because I do believe there are scientists who are faith-based in life, right? It's not one or the other. And sometimes I find that certain scientific accountings of things or explanations
Some scientists
are very much like, you can believe in science or you can be silly and you can not. And it's like,
So science is, I mean, the problem is science is
logical.
Specifically, it's besides logic, it's trying to explain what's happening in our everyday lives.
That has to be
Guess what?
factual.
Religion's trying to do that too, but science is doing it through like experiments.
Yeah.
Religion just does it based off of old news. I mean, sometimes they develop new ideas, but they are based on ancient views.
Not everything in religion is based on facts, right?
Yeah.
And that's the split between science
but let's
and religion.
take away facts, because facts are, humans make facts. All facts are something that we all agree can have. Yeah, it's like a consensus. But that's the thing with religion. There's not like experiments done to say this is how he came to this view. There's there's nothing leading up to that.
Things are based on religious texts,
I know people like to think
faith and stuff like that.
People like to think of science as a stale thing, but science was born from religion. It was a way of explaining, why is this happening?
Yeah.
It was kind of like, we wanted to understand our world at hand. We didn't want to just be there and be like afraid of what's happening. We wanted to we wanted to figure out what's going on. So that's all science is doing. It's not to, I know some people get on their high horses and like, religion's whatever, but sometimes you can take and you can get some advice from religion and see, because at least that's how we used to think, and maybe there's some truth in it possibly, but it's hard though because
is rough though. I mean,
I know, it's hard because there's a lot of things where religion messes you up.
Wishful thinking. I mean, come on, man.
Because the thing is, guys, there are people that give you accounts and they say, this happened and this happened, and they're actually having a mental break. That's the problem, and we don't account for it as that. We account for it as the Holy Spirit, taking upon them.
But see, that's the problem. There are some things that will happen that are completely not logical, that are completely not scientifically explainable, yet they happen, right? And then scientists are just like, at it. And
because we haven't come to explain how everything works in our universe
yet. But then the science community is so quick to be like, that couldn't be a miracle because miracles don't happen.
But it's not.
That's not fair.
It's true. Like, it's not a miracle. It's actually.
It could be an anomaly. It could be a scientific anomaly.
But it could be a thing where in 30 years we explain exactly how it happens and we can reproduce it.
You can't say right now that it's not.
Because we're doing miracles for people in the 15th century.
My whole thing is from the scientific community. And listen, I went to a high school for science and math, so I get it. Like, I understand you have to work with certain parameters in mind. But all I say is that at the end of the day, just because you can't explain something doesn't mean it's not miraculous in some way or form. It just means that, like,
well, that's in your point of view.
Yeah, in my opinion, I just think that you can't say that if you can't scientifically explain it, it's not, magical in some way. Because, like, why are you poo-pooing on magic and miracles?
That is one thing. Science does that. That is science aimed to get rid of magic, because magic is not. Magic doesn't make the world go around. I mean,
it's a simple term that's used for it. Obviously, it's not magical. It's really something else that's happening. But like,
when magic is thought of like something happens and you actually have no explanation for it. Yeah. That's magic. It's like, wow, and it's like, no explanation why it happened. But we're doing magic now by 15th century terms of human. They would think we're doing magic,
but it's not really magic. It's something
else. We use science to be able to perform these feats that they can never even thought about. Getting information in the palm of our hand.
Yes.
Making light emit from our palm of our hand with our
audio
phones.
Voices that
making sounds,
open your
all
house
that.
And technology that was never even fathomed in the 15th century.
So the issue is what the science is saying. It's kind of like, we've learned this much so far. Mm-hmm. If this one thing comes out, it's going to throw everything out that we learned, and now it's going to have to make us rethink things.
So
that's what some of them think. I'm not saying I agree, but that's what this person's saying. Saying if that came up, it would mean everything we did mean nothing. It's just like we were living on a set of rules that wasn't even real, but they somehow worked for life.
What if we're living on a set of rules and we're missing one rule, and that rule is tethered to the spiritual realm?
According to them, I don't know how they prove, but they're saying the science shows there can't be
it would disrupt
that's why I was saying there is no hidden variable. It's saying there's a hidden variable that does something, because you can actually do math to say if there was a hidden variable,
how would it affect the other things?
Yeah, you could actually know, even if you didn't know what it was, you would say there's something else that's going, because we do that too. We do have variables we don't know that
you play the devil's advocate and you try to
but in this case they're saying there is no hidden variable. Like if there was something else happening, it's having no effect on us
according to human conceptions and
unless
of
it'd have
physics
to
and all
be
that
like
now.
a double hidden thing where like where whatever effect it's having, it's not
I mean,
physically
you know
dependent
my
on
phrase,
it.
anything is possible.
Yeah, I mean, you could have thrown that one out there. You could throw that out there.
I don't know if
That's
you're
pretty
joking
funny.
or if you've been smoking.
That's what you got to say to yourself, exactly.
Oh,
Come on
good
now.
Lord.
Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario? It's scenario time, guys. Scenario 1. Amy was outside the space station on her daily spacewalk when one of the space engines suddenly broke loose and took Amy with it. With only 30 minutes of available air, Amy passed away after her mishap. If Amy has a spirit, would it float endlessly in space with her body, or would it return to Earth, which is 5 million miles from Earth now?
What kind of question is that, Khalil? Like, what the hell are you asking me?
It's a good question. If you have a spirit and you're floating in space,
You're
what
a
happens
hot
to it?
Mess.
Does it go back to Earth, or is it just gonna float around in the space? What happens to it?
You ass.
I'm asking a great question because I mean it's a scenario.
I mean, it is a scenario.
It is.
Indeed.
Think about it. Yeah. Have you ever pondered that? I've never seen this dealt with in movies.
No, I have not.
Talking about spirits.
In theory, I would say, not in theory. Okay, based on
what
the
you
facts
think
that
happened,
you
Harris?
shared with me, and based on what I have interpreted as the spiritual realm to exist, unless there is some type of tethering of our spirit to the planets like planet Earth, then in theory, I would imagine that once your human body died, that your spirit would leave the physical body and exist in whatever realm it's existing in. And so, unless there's something demanding
so it could go
that's
in a different dimension.
yeah,
you're
like
thinking,
well,
or
yeah,
something?
like unless spirits have to be floating in Earth, then no, in theory, it could go anywhere it damn well wanted
to go to
to
the
go.
fourth dimension or something.
Yeah, like I mean, unless there's some type of spiritual law that dictates that, like, nope, you could be here, but now you got to come back to Earth. Then, and I don't see why how that would even like.
You think that's too strange?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's weird. Like, why wouldn't your spirit be able to do what it wants? So, no, I think I don't know if it would float endlessly in space. I mean, maybe the spirit Amy would figure out something to do with herself.
She figure out how to go to the spirit realm or something.
Yeah, no, something. What do
right.
you think what do you think happens here?
I think the spirit would dissipate and it would get sucked into a black hole.
True romantic, yeah.
Yep, right in the center of our galaxy.
Oh, lovely. So
Goodbye,
nice.
spirit.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Even a spirit can't escape the black hole.
Oh, good Lord, Khalil.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna
crazy.
pray that you never die.
But space is a crazy place. I can't help. I didn't create the black hole. Don't blame me. Blame the universe doing crazy stuff like that, creating powerful forces that you can't escape.
Phenomenal.
Information not to escape from it. It's crazy. Come on now. Scenario 2. Jaron wants to prove to his friend that spirits exist. He thinks that if someone is no longer living, they will weigh less than when they were alive, proving that the spirit must have left the body. Is his reasoning sound? Can this experiment prove his theory?
Oh, that's how old is Jaron? Is this like a 5-year-old who's contemplating this statement, or
like a 5 times 20-year-old.
Oh, fascinating. Oh, okay.
He's at his old age. I mean,
so he's senile. When he's...
that's a thought. There's a thought there, maybe.
Okay. Well, it's not clear how old Jaron is,
and that's being ageist. His age has nothing to do with.
No,
the question.
I'm trying to understand what his context is.
Oh, like, his context?
Is this the context of a child, or
no? This person's been through life.
Oh, okay.
It's not a 2-year-old talking to a 2-year-old and throwing putty in his face.
Okay, no. I'm not an ageist.
They're not smashing food in each other's faces.
I'm trying to understand. Is this someone who's like reasonable and has?
It's a reasonable person.
It's a reasonable person adult. Standard. Okay,
they can get their own insurance and have regular rates, regular car rates for their insurance.
Excellent.
So
they
that's
can
how
go
you
to the
know.
movies. Excellent. Good.
Yeah, they can go see any rated R movies.
Phenomenal.
Yep, all that
Excellent.
stuff.
No limitations. Great.
Yeah.
So, I would say that the issue with his theory is that he is presupposing that a spirit would actually have to weigh something in human terms, right? Like, and so it's an interesting theory, right? Like if you weigh 175 pounds alive, and then if you die and you weigh 167 pounds, is that in theory the differential? Is that the weight of your spirit? I don't know if spirits would work that way. I don't know if they're weighed in kilograms or
well, it have to be even smaller than that. It'd have to be like picograms.
Yeah, like
really small.
I don't know. I just don't think it. Personally, I'm not convinced that it would work that way. But am I open to the idea? Yes, I'm always open to an idea. But I don't think he would. I don't know if this would prove his theory. I think he would have to have multiple bodies that are dead, and then they'd have to be weighed like that, and then also you would have to disprove that there's no other factors playing at why there's a differential in the death weight versus the alive weight. Well, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think this experiment's gonna work. I don't think so. Because even if, when you die, if you, like, breathe out all of your air, your weight's going to go down, letting out the air out of your lungs. And
you expel fluids from you.
Yeah, and you start letting stuff off you, and then heat comes off of you. Because if we had, like, let's say we had something super, super accurate, beyond the Planck scale even, even if it was that accurate, if you give off the heat, you're gonna weigh less too. It's gonna everything's gonna have an effect. Everything. So I don't think you can actually do this to concretely tell you the spirit left the body. Like that's not gonna let you know that it's the weight thing's not gonna work. And then especially people are saying that spirits don't have a physical material. They're just in a spiritual realm. They're in a different dimension or something. So then that wouldn't help either, right?
Wouldn't help.
You can't, because they're not on the physical level, so you can't detect it. So that won't work.
Yeah,
so.
The person just lost their water weight. That's all.
Yeah, this experiment is not worth even trying.
I was afraid that this was going down the direction of he was going to prove it to his friend, so he was going to like die for a little bit and see if his weight changed, and then be like, "Yo, I'm back," and be like, "Okay, guys," like.
Oh, smart! Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be like a
just
like
the
flatliner situation. Yeah,
it's like,
just
like that. Real smart there. Yeah. He's like, "Look, did my weight go down?
Did my weight change?
Yeah,
did my spirit leave?"
Real smart if he did all that.
Yeah,
be crazy. Scenario 3. Laura always believed in spirits. Growing up, everyone around her would tell her about an afterlife and how people would live on forever, just in a different form. Recently, Laura has been seeing a lot of posts on social media claiming spirits are a hoax. Should Laura believe what she sees on social media, or keep true to what her heart tells her?
Okay, interesting. So, okay. So I was just speaking about social media at an event that I was at. And, you know, what I would love to reemphasize to the world is that, you know, as a fan of social media, it's a wonderful tool that we all can use, but we cannot allow it to use us. So if Laura growing up always believed in spirits, if this was a concept that didn't frighten her or scare her or upset her, but more was a part of kind of the fabric of how she's come to understand what life is about and how she feels comfortable understanding or interpreting the spiritual life, I don't think she should use a couple of posts on social media to debunk her understanding outrightly. I think if this is something that she's interested in challenging and contesting, then she's going to have to go on a journey, and she's going to have to read a lot more than what she sees on social media, but she's going to have to speak with experts, whatever experts can share in this space, which we already discussed, that it's a very fluid arena. So good luck with that, Laura.
She has to speak with religious experts.
She'd have to speak with religious experts. She'd have to speak with scientific leaders, and she's going to have a couple of question marks for probably a couple of years. So outrightly, the answer is no. Social media in and of itself is not something that she should use to break her heart about her concept on spirituality and afterlife.
Yeah, I would say don't use social media to affect your opinions, because it could be fake news as well.
I mean, not outright. I think you can use it to spark thought, right? But you have to do some research. You have to do due diligence. There's fake news. There's alternative facts out there. So just don't outrightly say anything on the internet's wrong, like, you know, but just say, you know, do more information, look at more stuff, you know, and if it sparks something in you, then great.
But what if you're seeing a lot of posts, you see like like 10
like
on
20
your
posts
timeline
or something, yeah.
Yeah, you going through your timeline and you see all this stuff. And
There's
you
a
click
lot of
on
people
it,
who drink
and
Kool-Aid.
you go
yeah.
deeper to it.
You have to be careful. Listen, you have to, guys, this is the phrase. I don't know if you're joking or if you've been smoking.
Yeah, but that doesn't help.
But you need to find your rabbit-ass minds.
No, but that doesn't help. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know if it's true.
So
she
then
has to do
maybe,
outside research.
You know what she should post on her wall? Has everyone lost their rabbit-ass mind? Question mark.
Okay.
Like, and do some research and figure out what's going on. Did we have some type of spiritual occurrence that why people are bugging out and talking about this? Like, because that would be weird. I would imagine something happened if there was like everyone on her timeline was talking about this. That would be weird.
Or is
right?
just Facebook trying to say something to her? They're
It
trying
could
to manipulate her.
It
They're
could
performing
be.
an experiment, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
They
maybe.
can do that so they can
Don't
manipulate
throw
it.
Facebook under the bus. Jesus.
I'm okay with experiments. All in the name of science.
Oh, good Lord, Cologne.
That's what this is for.
That's a bold statement as a person of color. That's a bold statement.
Hey,
I'm not okay with all experiments. I'm okay with experiments that are consented to and have been fully
I'm not saying I'm okay
acknowledged
with
to
all
what
experiments.
the consequences are.
I'm not saying I'm okay with all experiments. All I'm saying, it's in the name of science. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Walter Bishop, okay.
That's all I'm saying.
You need to have parts of your brain taken out.
Alright, maybe that can help.
That's a Fringe reference, guys. You should totally check that out if you don't know what I'm talking about. Fringe, I just watched the whole season again. It was wonderful.
That's why you got Fringe on the brain.
I always have Fringe on the brain now. Yes. And we are at that time again. It is coming to the end of our 89th episode of Woke and Free. Maybe one day we'll get it right.
When the spirits come, yep.
When the spirit moves us.
When that secondary spirit finishes the party in the afterlife and then comes
and
back.
is ready to party with us.
Yeah, like, you know what? I'm gonna come back, spirit that got tied to the dead body. I'm not gonna leave you hanging there.
You say that, and one time when we're recording this,
buddy.
we're gonna be talking, and
buddy.
then all of a sudden you're gonna hear another Woke and Free, and you're gonna look, and neither of us were speaking, and you're gonna hear another voice.
And I'm gonna say, stop that, Google. Stop it. Google. That's what I'm gonna say.
Amazing.
Say stop it right now.
That's true. It could, that's actually true. Audio technology could be playing games with us.
Yeah,
for sure.
and they do that.
Yes, they do. Shout out to Alexa. This was quite the episode discussing whether spirits actually exist, not ghosts, but the human spirit. Will I leave you hanging for what our next episode will be about?
On our next episode, we will be discussing, is there a purpose to life? Make sure you follow us on social media to follow along in the conversation. Make sure you tune in next week for WokeNFree Wednesday to join the conversation at WokeNFree.com.
If you want to be a guest on the show, submit a topic for an upcoming episode, or just share how you feel about what we're talking about on the show, you can visit us on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. That is WokenFree.com. We're super active on social media. You can always find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at WokenFree. If you would like to sponsor an upcoming episode, again, please contact us on our Contact Us page at WokenFree.com.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do. Share the episode and make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for Woke and Free Wednesdays. Remember, Woke and Free is more than a podcast, it is a way of life. Until next time.